JD. When I was 16, my whole world was turned upside down. I made one of the most horrific decisions in my life, and it cost me. I was charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery with a firearm, and sentenced to 2 natural life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. And I've served 31 years in prison. And my life has been a disaster. What's up, y'all? This JD, Redemption Kings. Redemption, redemption, redemption. Yeah, we redeem over here. Absolutely. Now check this out, man. I want to open up this episode like this here. Listen, your boy JD done been in a lot of fights, y'all. God, do y'all want me to explain these things to y'all? Because I can. You know, I done been in a lot of fights in the chain gang. Look at my finger. People like, man, why you ain't get that fixed? How that happen? Look at that one there. Yeah, all these fights. I was fighting before I left the county jail. I can remember, you know, it was, I can't help but remember this day. The day I got sentenced to 2 natural life sentences without the possibility. Now, I was a dude in the county jail. Young dude, we was in the JIT dorm. And man, listen, man, this dude used to always pop at me like he wanted to hurt me. Now I'm 16, you know, I ain't that small. But he always acted like, you know, he was, you know, bullying over me, and he just didn't know I wasn't the dude to do that to. You know, and the only thing that saved him was my mama, Robin Brown. She the only thing that saved him, because every time I got on the phone with her, she was like, Devin, you better not hit that boy, I'm gonna beat your tail. Even though she couldn't reach me in prison, but that worked. It was effective. Okay, so this dude used to always get at me. And I always told myself, I said, man, listen, if them people give you more than 20 years, you know, that dude gonna have to get beat up. He gonna have to be shown that, you know, he just can't tolerate you like this. You just can't tolerate that. So, you know, the day I got sentenced, it was a rough day. The judge, he let me know that, you know, I was gonna be going to prison for the rest of my life. And there wasn't nothing I could do about it. You know, I wasn't no murderer, but I was going for the rest of my life, and I didn't know why at that time, but now I do. And, you know, the only thing that I heard when the judge sentenced me to those 2 natural life sentences was laughter. The whole courtroom stopped and looked. And guess who was laughing, y'all? My mama, Miss Robin Brown. She was laughing. And she told me in open court, she said, baby, don't believe that judge. He ain't got the last word. Call me when you get back to the dorm. And they say the women ain't the backbone to a family. Huh. Tell me about it. But yeah, I got back to the dorm, and guess what I did? After that judge gave me 2 natural life sentences, I cried. And man, my mama, she consoled me, she prayed with me, she did all these things with me, but I was still finna go to the chain gang in my mind. And when I got off the phone with her, I went and got my Bible. I was so mad, I was looking at my Bible and I'm like, where you at? Who is God? I threw it on the bed. I went outside my cell and I turned the TV to Aladdin. Y'all, Aladdin, y'all like the Aladdin. I like the Princess Jasmine. She was so cute. But yeah, I wanted to watch Aladdin. And all the dudes that was in the dormitory, they was at the window watching the girls play basketball outside in the rec yard. Now, I had the TV all to myself. So the bully of the dorm, not knowing that I've been let loose of my shackles, jumped up on the table and turned the TV from Aladdin. And my first reply to this was, man, why you turn the TV? I was watching that. And he said, man, we don't watch no Atlanta here. Listen, y'all. I hit this man so hard, me and him couldn't believe it. We both couldn't believe what had happened. You know, he laid on the floor, and I went to my cell, because they was where they was going to lock me at anyway. And they locked the door, and they came and got him. That next day, I was on the bus to Lake Butler. They ain't waste no time getting rid of me. And that was the first fight I had. And many more from playing basketball, you know. I only had one encounter with an officer, but it didn't come to blows. It was at ACI, and I had just got my tray. And these trays that they gave us, y'all, they was fragile. And, you know, they ain't put no good scoop of greens on the tray. They put a bunch of greens and water on the tray. You know, so when you get your tray filled up, you think it's some greens, there's water. But it got a few greens floating around in it. So I get the tray, and I'm walking down the line. And it's this officer standing in front of the line, right? This dude is about 6'6". He got to be about 250, nothing but muscle. And when you look down at his shoes, it's shiny, y'all. He got them black boots that you can see your whole face in. And I look at the boots. And when I look up to his face, he got a big cowboy hat on. He black. Chewing tobacco. I couldn't believe it. This was the first time I seen that in the chain game. But when I looked at the dude, I froze. And when I came this way with my tray, the juice from the greens fell off my tray and hit this dude's boot. Listen, the whole cafeteria just slowed down like, oh man. And man, the officer stopped and looked at his boot. And he said, inmate. He said, man, get on your knees and clean my boots. He said it just like that. Now, everybody in that kitchen stopped and looked back at me just to see what I was gonna do. It was a defining moment, y'all, in my young life. And you know what I told that officer? I said, I ain't cleaning your boots. And he looked at me and he said, man, throw that tray in that hole there, get out my chow hall. I ran out of there. I was happy to run out of there. I didn't want to eat nothing out of there. Nothing at all. I didn't want to eat out of there. And that saved me that day, because if I would have wiped the juice off that dude's boot, I wouldn't have been able to live in that dorm that I was in. They would have ate me alive in there. And I knew that. I had that instinct in me to know that. And, you know, as I got older and I got more wiser, you know, I got to the point where, you know, my reputation took over and I didn't have to fight no more. I didn't have to fight no more battles. You know, but I stayed in shape. I always stayed in shape. But yeah, your boy had to get down sometime. But the battle that I found myself fighting at Cross City, it wasn't a physical battle no more. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was that good old mental battle. Yeah. That battle that you can't run away from. That battle that wake you up like a nightmare. It harass you all day. That mental battle. And my mental battle was that I was getting older, but I wasn't progressing. My life wasn't changing. I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't going nowhere. Everything that I tried to do, it had no weight to it. So it failed. My hope was draining, man. One day I woke up in a cell in Cross City, and something said, Devin, you're gonna die in prison if you don't change. You're gonna die in prison if you don't do something. Man, I hopped out the bed. I hopped out that bed, and man, I went and looked all around. I grabbed, my box from under my bracket, and I looked through it and I found all my legal work. Now, I wasn't telling none of my homeboys this, the face that they saw every day was the same. I never changed it. They saw the same characteristics. Same smile. The same everything. But they didn't know just how much inside I was suffering. But my pride wouldn't let me show it. But I was suffering, man. I was like a mice in a cage that's getting burnt up and it got nowhere to go. That's what I felt like. Like it was over. And the only escape that I had was, knowing that if I change, things change. Because if I change, nothing that I was doing can stay the same. Does that make sense? If I change, nothing that I used to do would stay the same. Because I'm not the same. My thinking's changed. A light bulb went off. Boom. I said, oh. So if I want to change this habitual world that I'm zombieing in every day, I gotta change the way I look at it. I gotta change my perception. Man, I gotta change everything. And man, that seed, it started growing. Now, man, you know, check this out now. Just because this seed was growing didn't mean that I was not stuck in my ways, because I was. See, in the chain game, where, how you live counts. Because there's two type of people in the chain game. And these caps will show you out. It's dudes that don't do nothing and dudes that do. Dudes that hustle and dudes that suckers. Dudes that's in the way and dudes that get in the way. Yeah. And if I was to describe myself to those characteristics, I was a hustler. I was a dude that got in the way. I handled my business. Yeah, I did that. And it was natural to me. It was natural to me to get to an institution and carve my way out. Because everybody was carving their way out. Cross City was already carved out. But I carved my way out too. I showed up did. Everybody know about them MP4s. And guess what? I had it going on. We ain't gonna go into that though. But yeah, JD had it going on real good. JD had 4 or 5 houses filled to the rim and was storing them out. That's how JD had his hands in the pit. Because you know what? When you did as much time as I did in prison, even though I never looked at that place as being my home, that's what it was. And I knew the cuts, the turns, the tricks of the trades, the ways, the people, the eyes. I knew it all. I knew it all. And it gave me a certain type of stature in that. But I would have gave it all away if I could have pulled back my decision that got me there. None compared to your freedom. None compared to your freedom. So y'all out there in society who don't know this side of the ball, who ain't never failed before, who ain't never did no time, you ain't been to the chain gang. You been out here popping up big guns, you ain't never dealt with no knives before, but then there's some who have. You know, there's some who have, and they refuse to understand until they wind up like me with a life sentence. Who knows? Or gone somewhere. You know, that's how it is with us black folks. That's how our lives flow sometimes. Not all of us, and that's my opinion too now. But in the chain gang, that's how life was, and I knew it. I knew it because that was my life. See, this life out here in society that I'm living right now, it's a different life. It's so much going on. There's so much more. You know, and right now I'm redeeming the moment. I'm redeeming it. Your boy JD, free! Anybody know how that feels? That feels beautiful. Freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. You know, in my last days, a part of the Department of Corrections, I started doing something in my life that, you know, was a way to express myself, to show people my heart and how I was feeling. And this is the first episode that I'm gonna do this in, but this is gonna be a part of my shorts, y'all. So check them out in the future. I'm gonna do some spoken word for y'all. And the first spoken word that I'm gonna do for y'all is called freedom. Because I'm free. And I wanted that. I wanted it bad. Freedom was everything. See, at one institution that I was at, they used to allow the cranes to glide and fall on the compound where we can feed them bread. And man, I used to look at them cranes and I used to be like, that's freedom. Look at them cranes, they can go and come as they please. But I'm stuck in these gates. But they can go and close as they please. Lord, if that can only be me. But I was stuck with 2 natural life sentences. But I wrote a poem entitled Freedom. And it goes like this. The prison wires couldn't deflect my view of these beautiful cranes gliding so softly through the air. They were captured in a serene atmosphere of colors, reflected by the sun flares. The scene penetrated my broken soul that long ago forgot how to care. But its significance was staggering to my mind because all I can do is sit back and stare. Because it was freedom, outlined in the brilliance that only nature can display. Flowing on the breeze of time, as ancient as the shackles in prison blues that incarcerate my mind every day. It called out to me, resonated from the depths of the shadows of my heart, igniting the fire of my soul to fight, scratch, and claw for all that I lost. Freedom in the hall of her glory. What a treasure to behold and possess. A chest filled with hopes and dreams, but as slippery as an eel in the hands of a human being. Freedom, how does it feel to feel so free? Because sometimes it seems too much freedom be evading me. The cranes, they continued their ascent to the great blue beyond, stealing just for a second my thoughts, the guards, the prison yard. I thought to myself, I'll never forget this day, though my days never be the same. But I'll be here tomorrow, freedom, hoping to the end, that one day, me and your path will cross again. It did, y'all. It crossed. Freedom crossed for me. And I'm giving you the game. If you'll pay attention, I'm giving it to you game. But I'm also gonna give you some stories that I hope feed your soul as well. Feed your mind, because listen, just because I was locked up in prison don't mean brothers out here ain't locked up too. We locked up in all type of junk that we wish we wasn't in. Am I right, King? Yeah. We need to redeem some of that, man. We need to get that back. Yeah, because we kings. We redemption kings. And we gonna find out what that means. I want y'all to stay tuned, man. Hey, like, comment, subscribe to your boy, because I got more for you. Stay tuned. Peace.